This is the Automotive Repair Podcast Network.
Welcome, everyone, to yet another episode of Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z. I'm Matt Fonzla, and the past can hurt. The way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. That or more after a word from our sponsors. Our sponsors, Autel and Pico Technology. Tired of guesswork in your auto diagnostics? Need to pinpoint faults quickly and accurately? PicoScope will turn your PC into a powerful diagnostic tool. See live waveforms from sensors, injectors, and ignition systems. See the problem? Solve it faster. Visit picoauto.com. That's Pico auto.com. Autel delivers award-winning automotive diagnostic tools trusted by technicians across North America. Backed by Autel North America experts in sales, training, and technical support. From drivability diagnostics and TPMS service to ADAS and advanced safety systems, Autel helps technicians follow OEM procedures and repair with confidence. Learn more at autel.com. All right, so there's a video short floating around multiple outlets from, one of the weaker of my competitors. I'm just kidding. It's Confessions of a Shop Owner with Mike Allen, and he has a guest who is a very weak trainer. I think, he hasn't really yet cracked my top 60, but again, I'm just kidding. A good friend of mine, Rich Velko, is a guest on Mike's podcast, and the video is short, which is, I think, a few different ones, but it's talking about training and training to be great, training to be, I guess, relevant for the next job, making yourself more valuable. Essentially, they both agree that you need to be training. Big surprise, Rich is a trainer or an educator, so that's not stunning and that's not a shot. And Mike being a shop owner, he's going to want his people to be capable. But there's mention of those in, I suspect, social media or forum posts who are quite against, or at least project a frustration with feeling that it's demanded they give up their own personal time, get after work or weekends to go become better educated or go to training events, whatever it may be. And I was going to type up a response, but it turns into a novel. I become overwhelmed, or I feel very overwhelmed with what I feel to be very complex. And that could be just me making it way more complex than it needs to be or is. I don't know. That's my scatterbrain. I don't know. Or just allowing the floodgates to be open when there's no reason to do that. I don't know. My concern is if I don't want to imply that I think Mike or Rich is being dismissive of these individuals. Okay. So that is not where I'm heading with this at all. It's really just what would be the argument supporting that perspective. And I think we could look at them as rational actors. We could look at them as acting in their best interest. I think the argument relies heavily on the system we've created. And it's not just the shop itself. It's also the entire profession. So I guess I don't want to jump around too much, but I think it is worth bringing up that training in general, or one's educating themselves either via schooling, classes, experience, working under somebody, a lot of that's been associated with the individual. Like that investment has been really assigned to the individual for a long, long time, decades and decades and decades. And I'm not talking just auto repair. I mean, across the board. The logic being those skills, that knowledge travels with the individual. Therefore, they're making themselves more valuable, more capable. Therefore, they can negotiate either for whatever it is they want, presumably more money, better, benefits, whatever, perks with current employer, or take their talents to another facility. So that makes sense. I think the issue is the individual making this response to really not wanting to go to training after work or on weekends or whatever, making that personal sacrifice, if you will, is that either the reward is not worth it or they don't believe the reward is there to begin with. And I may have mentioned it in one of the game theory episodes about cheap talk, which is really, we hear it out other places, but it is a game theory term where promises are made, empty promises. If this, then that, but then that never occurs. Or it's a just minor reward, a shadow of what was implied or promised. So we've kind of set up a really difficult situation for one to want to overly invest in themselves for a payoff that may not exist. One, is there a lack of competition for one who invests in themselves? Meaning, we'll just take an example of technician A, technical specialist A, is using their personal time, their personal money to invest in training, learning, and we'll just assume for the sake of this discussion that with this investment, they are indeed improving. Okay. Now, fast forward however long, a year, 2 years, 5 years, pick a number. They go to their employer and are like, look, I've done all this. I've got all these training hours in. I've spent this amount of money on myself. Maybe that's not what they bring up, but at least the time investment and hopefully a capability. They can demonstrate capability. And let's assume this isn't a flat rate situation, that it's not based off production hours, that because they're well trained and have learned that their hours go up. I'm not sure that's actually true that would happen. Maybe in very specific situations and a certain diet of certain types of work that they've been trained for that could possibly happen. Sure. But in our world, at least independent auto repair, I don't know if it happens enough that in whatever shop of a given size, you get enough of a specialized diet of work that you could have been trained for that results in your production hours going up, and basically rewarding you for the investment in yourself. I don't know that happens. I really don't. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I don't know that it really happens. So there you sit. You have to be able to demonstrate that because of this training, because of this investment, you're bringing a value to the facility, to the shop, to management, that your capability is allowing the shop to do things, finish cars, vehicles, services that it otherwise wouldn't be able to do, something of that nature. And that because the value is seen, the specialist is rewarded. And I feel the argument is that's not happening. Then, right, the idea is you take and start filling out applications and sending out your resume to the competition to then find out if you can increase your return on investment elsewhere. And the concern is, and again, a lot of this is just taken from what you see on social media, in conversations, stuff like that. That's also not necessarily happening. So if you're witness to this, and now you're being asked to do all these things, and I'm not trying to blow all these things out of proportion, but you're being asked to go to training. Maybe the shop even pays for the training, pays to get to the training. And so it's your own personal vehicle. There's a stipend for miles, and then you leave work a little bit early, paid to drive, go to this 3-4 hour class that starts at 6, done at 9, however long to get back home. Maybe the shop also says that since you were out late for this training, you can show up a little late the next morning and do it all over again. They're covering a lot of that. And we're still witnessing trouble getting individuals into the classrooms. So I've taken some of that investment off of the specialist's responsibilities. That doesn't seem to be enough of a motivator. It's too easy to point out or point to, I guess, or blame the individual as some sort of a character flaw. Could that be the case? Absolutely. Is it the case across the board? I don't think so. That's really rough. So what's something more baked into the system? Again, the system could be the shop itself, but I think I find it to be not just the individual shop, but as a collective. It may not just be the relatively immediate compensation increase or economic increase, improvement. It's really a lack of path or pathing, career pathing. You know what I mean? Where I'm following this path, I'm doing what I need to do, or quote unquote should do, slightly dangerous word, but expected. And yet, what is the payoff? And one might say you get to keep your job. Then one has to ask, is the job worth keeping? I can't answer that. Like, some of it's what's the personal satisfaction, but then also, can they find something else to do that doesn't involve working in a repair shop that pays similarly or puts them in a similar or better economic position? I guess that it feels like, from what I see, it is not yet the case that many are in a situation where they couldn't replace their current employment with something outside of the profession that is similar pay, or maybe it's a little bit lower pay, better benefits, or something like that. That's a real issue. What, short of ego, what would be the drive to do that? If I look back on my past, a lot of the early training I did was pure ego driven. I wanted to know. I wanted to be considered one of the best, at least locally. Yeah, I spent a lot of time. Did it make me more valuable? Ultimately, yeah. Ultimately, I don't know if I arrive where I am at currently without it, for multiple reasons. Some of it being the information gained in class stemming from that, but also a lot of that too, where I end up is, or at least my career path ends up being because of relationships created and cultivated by going to events and being involved online. So early IATN, and then of course Facebook has now become pretty good. Okay, it can be a really good resource. In some cases, it's god awful, but there's there's plenty of groups that are extraordinarily valuable. And I would say I've met a few of some of my best friends via professional forums and groups. So there's a lot of value to that. But early on, I think it's almost 100% ego driven. I wasn't looking for the payoff right away. Is your shop ready for the electric vehicle revolution? Don't get left behind. The Pico Scope EV Kit is your all-in-one solution. Diagnose any electric or hybrid vehicle, from high-voltage batteries to complex communication systems. With guided tests and pinpoint accuracy, you'll tackle more jobs and boost your bottom line. This isn't just a tool, it's your future. Be the expert in EV repair. Visit picoauto.com to future-proof your shop today. That's PICOauto.com. This episode of Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z is brought to you by Autel. Autel is a global developer and manufacturer of award-winning professional automotive diagnostic tools and service equipment, trusted by technicians, educators, and shop owners across North America. With diagnostics at their core, Autel's real-world solutions support repair workflows ranging from full system vehicle diagnostics to servicing the most advanced automotive technologies. What sets Autel North America apart is the team behind the tools. Dedicated experts across sales, training, and technical support, each bringing deep, hands-on experience supporting professional technicians. When questions arise, you're working with people who understand the vehicles, the procedures, and the real-world demands of modern repair. Whether diagnosing complex drivability concerns, servicing TPMS systems, validating repairs, or working with ADAS and advanced safety technologies, Autel tools are engineered to support accurate, efficient repairs in strict accordance with OEM procedures and standards. To learn more about Autel and their diagnostic solutions, visit autel.com, AUTEL.com. When I'm sitting in the poker games with my friends in other professions and they pull into the house or I go to their house and it's a way nicer house than I have and they're driving nicer vehicles and they're talking about vacations that I could never dream of doing any of that. Yes, maybe they're up to debt to their eyeballs. I don't know. I don't think so. I think they were just doing better than I was. It started to matter. When I had my first kid, it started to really matter. Then I kind of started to double down on the training, thinking that's got to vault me up. I think it was a contributing factor that because now I could do things and knew how to do things others may not, or wasn't scared of certain things, scared being a bad word, hesitant. It definitely helped, but it really didn't start paying off until later. Like probably by my third kid is when it really may seem to start really paying off. But also that's when those relationships form and other opportunities are available that required me to move, but it started moving me up the economic ladder. I will admit though, early on, I was not very good. I still don't know that I'm all that good at it to be on the level. As interesting as that may seem, I don't know if I'm all that great for advocating for myself because I very much struggle with that word value. Not that I find myself so unvaluable or invaluable, specifically unvaluable. I just have a rough time putting numbers on it. I don't know. It's just something I've always been very wildly uncomfortable with. So early on, because of that, I think that could have been largely responsible for some earlier struggles. And that's something to learn to get a handle on. And there's episodes with Dutch Silverstein of mine, and he's on other platforms, other podcasts talking about the same thing. And extraordinary value in listening to him. Or if you can find the groups he participates in on social media, read everything. He has a column in Ratchet and Wrench. Read it. He's a terrific resource. Don't tell him I said that, but the truth is the truth. I guess the thing is you can look at people that either invest a lot in themselves or very little, and they might both be rational actors. And I think that can be an uncomfortable position to be in, that both could be, quote unquote correct, or at least being logical, being reasonable, even though they seem to contradict. And that we need to step back and take a more systems approach. What would motivate someone to go to training, and what would demotivate them from going to training, and leave the whole character assassination for the very last thing. It's not a character flaw. It could be, but let's hold that off to the end. Make that the last one. Let's look at all the other things. Solutions. What are some solutions? One is thinking about it, creating a path. One thing with auto repair not being licensed. There's friends of mine that are in the medical profession, or many of the other skilled trades. They go to training regularly because they have to, or they lose their license. They can't practice anymore. They can't work anymore. They can't be a journeyman anymore, or they won't be able to become journeyman or a master. We don't have that, but you could say, and you're going to have to do your homework, that this job's pretty good. We do take good care of you. You can't just say it. You can't just think it. You got to go prove it. It won't be easy. It might be worth it, but then you can categorically say, like, you know what? You can make a pretty darn good living here. And it's not basing that idea off of what you made when you were their age. It's literally based off of what does it really cost to live around here? And then you can, say that with not precedence, but at least with reference material, backing it up. And I'm not saying to use that as a ceiling either, but just basically a baseline of which, or a foundation of which to build the argument that, hey, this is a pretty darn good job and it's something somebody would want to, most likely would want to keep, or it's going to be difficult to replace. Now, part of your employment here, and probably should be in the employee handbook somewhere, is you're going to be expected to do X amount of hours of training, or this type of training, like this online training. You'll have an account and a subscription to Scanner Danner Premium. You're going to have an account to many, of the other training entities out there, automotive seminars, that you're expected, and we can track what you're doing, how you're watching. Today's class is another one. We're going to get you signed up. We expect you to do this. Just as a point of working here, this is the expectation of keeping your job here. The other thing is showing that doing the training leads to good things, which means your veterans become your best salespeople. They really do. The people that have been with you the longest really should be your best salespeople for why to work for you, or why to work at your shop. And if you are a veteran at a shop and you aren't the best salesman, why? And that's an honest question. It's not so much why aren't you doing your job of being the best salesman? It's why aren't you the best salesman? Do you figure out what's broken? Help. As an employee, you may not be in the best position to fix the system, but you could at least call attention to the system being broken and then let those in the best position to fix the system if they're going to fix it. And if not, no, that's a different conversation. But really, if you're in management, the people that have been with you the longest really should be your best salespeople to your younger people or potential future employees. Give them something to sell by them demonstrating that their investment in themselves has paid off dividends working here. Make that the reality. Demonstrate that you have ideas for them throughout the phases of their career. I don't think it's an easy task. I don't think I've got a handle on it completely. But if you can demonstrate, you can show your people that this is something that's you're thinking about, it's in the works. What does that mean? You're with us now and you're in your 30s, but I'm trying to plan ahead for when you're in your 60s. And what does that look like? That's a very, very, very powerful motivator. That's safety. So yeah, that's something to look hard into. And then I think another thing is start trying to get as much training available during the workday where it doesn't feel, it's flat out not taking time, personal time. Not that they shouldn't invest any personal time, but if you show that you respect their personal time more than just buying it, but also preserving it by offering ways of going to training during work hours, I think that's pretty powerful as well. So yeah, I think the big things are pathing and work hour training. And then really just pump the brakes on the whole character flaw assumption. Try to look at it from a systems view. And yeah, one shop isn't going to fix an entire culture of a profession, but recognize that that's in existence, right? So we have mutual reputation when it comes to the motoring public. We also have mutual reputation when it comes to the people working in the field. Think about that. It should suck to think about, but that's where we're at. And then we got to do our part. So I didn't read what I had wrote because what I wrote was way longer and I think more convoluted, but I think it's reasonable to challenge the character flaw perspective and look to the system. The system itself is broken. Let's fix the system. I'm thinking a lot of what we see is baked into the system is a byproduct of a broken system. So we have to fix the system. And the system, I know I'm kind of talking out both sides of my mouth, I guess, sort of, or talking about two different systems. One, I guess they're not really different, but you have a main system of the actual profession made up of the small systems being the individual shops. So That's using the word system a lot in a sentence, but it's the only word I can think of that fits. So thank you very, very much for listening. Thank you so very much to our sponsors, Pico Technology and Autel. Thank you to the Automotive Repair Podcast Network. And until next time, take care.
You've been listening to Diagnosing the Aftermarket A to Z with Matt Bonslow on the Automotive Repair Podcast Network. Download our exclusive podcast app at automotiverepairpodcastnetwork.com because the best conversations in the industry start here. Want Matt to cover a specific topic? Check the show notes for his email. Your input matters.